Yo, what is up, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video, but there is no time for intros. Donovan Mitchell is a Cleveland Cavalier in a move that came out of legitimately nowhere. By this point, I had just assumed that Mitchell would be a Knick by some point, whether it was by training camp or the regular season or the trade deadline. It felt like he was going to end up there. It was kind of just a matter of time, and we have been seeing Donovan Mitchell trade rumors for months at this point. Really, ever since the season ended, it kind of felt like he was going to be moved on from. Then there was the Gobert trade, and then it was like, okay, he's definitely going to get moved, but we have heard nothing but rumors. So when I was sitting on this couch right here behind me and half asleep, and I saw the Woj notification, I thought to myself, oh, it's probably just, another rumor, just updating on nothing at this point. Then I read that he got traded to Cleveland, and I was shell-shocked. It is legitimately broken Twitter. I can't refresh the app right now. It is an insane trade. Let's talk about the trade package and break it down from both sides. So, the trade package as a whole is, of course, Donovan Mitchell, but going to the Utah Jazz is Colin Sexton, Lauri Markkanen, Ochai Agbaji, who is Cleveland's first-round pick this year, 3 future first-round picks in 2025, 2027, and 2029, and 2 pick swaps in 2026 and 2028. It is a massive package. Let's start off with breaking it down from Utah's side because I have a little less to say about them, and then we'll talk about why I'm so excited for Cleveland with this, new addition in Donovan Mitchell. So for the Utah Jazz, of course, they're trying to rebuild, and I think they've done a great job of setting their foundation. Colin Sexton was a sign-in trade. They gave him a 4-year, $72 million contract, so he's making about $18 million a year. And if he returns to form before his injury, then that's a pretty good deal for him. They get Agbaji, who's a really solid 3-and-D player off the bat. Lauri Markkanen was pretty solid for Cleveland this past year. He's still decently young. And of course, 3 future first-round picks, all unprotected, including one in 2029, where this Cleveland roster is still pretty young, but there's a chance, teams can always blow up at some point. In the NBA, nothing is ever guaranteed. So if this core blows up, that 2029 pick could be huge. They've just got a ton of draft capital. And now when you combine that with the capital that they've got from the Minnesota Timberwolves in the Gobert trade, plus capital they're going to get from, they got THT from the Lakers, bringing him in for Patrick Beverley. They're going to trade Conley. They're going to trade Bogdanovich. They've got a bunch of role players they could trade. Malik Beasley's another name. They're going to keep accumulating picks. They are building a ridiculous war chest of picks, only, second probably at this point behind OKC's by the time they're done with everything. So they are really committing to this rebuild, and I applaud Danny Ainge. He went out, made a trade he was going to get. He got a lot of draft capital like he wanted. It was clear that, Sexton isn't even a guy that, maybe he won't even be on this roster long term. He already is 24 years old, and for a team that's entering the first year of its rebuild, I could see him being moved at the deadline. Maybe he plays pretty well. A team that doesn't have a lot of great scoring options, he balls out, and maybe he gets moved at the deadline for more draft capital. They've just put themselves in a great position to go for Victor Wembanyama this upcoming draft, or Scoot Henderson. They're in position to be one of the worst teams in the league, which is exactly what they should do. They should fully tank, bottom out this upcoming year. The whole Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert experiment, it didn't work. Mitchell was there for a good period of time, and he was a fan favorite, one of the best players they've had in a long time, but it was time to move on. And so I applaud them for, ending that era, moving on, and I think they've gotten a lot of great assets in the process, young pieces, draft capital. That's what you have to prioritize. They're not trying to, stay competitive by switching things up. They understand that they need to be bad. It's what they're going for, and I really do applaud them for that. So I think the Jazz, a lot of people are saying, oh, they could have gotten more, they could have gotten this, that. I think they got a pretty good package. I really do think that they did a good job in executing this, overhaul, trading their 2 stars. I think it was a good deal for the Utah Jazz. I think they did a fine job. Now, we talk about the Cavaliers, and I am super stoked. If you haven't watched this channel, I'm already a pretty big fan of the Cavs. I really like what they've got going on there with Garland, Mobley, Allen as a big 3. Garland, in my opinion, is one of the best up-and-coming point guards in the league. Allen is an all-star caliber center. And to me, I think Evan Mobley was my favorite player in last year's draft class. I think he could be at an Anthony Davis type player, at that level at some point in his career. I think he could be a superstar down the line. So I absolutely love this trade for the Cavaliers. A team like the Knicks, I really didn't love the idea of Donovan Mitchell for them because it felt like they didn't have as set of a, game plan around him. To me, it felt like trading for Donovan Mitchell for them would have, it definitely would have made them better, but it wouldn't have made them some kind of contender or a team that would be close to that level. Now with the Cleveland Cavaliers, they've got so many young players that have so much room to grow. Like I said, Garland, he's only entering his 3rd, 4th season at this point. Jared Allen is still pretty young. Evan Mobley is heading into his 2nd year, and he was incredible last last year. He's a player that I think could be on an all-defensive team this upcoming season. Now you got a guy in Donovan Mitchell, who's one of the best shooting guards in the league, a guy that can both get you buckets and, play make for you too, so he gives you another ball handler alongside Garland. You had to give up Lauri Markkanen, who was pretty solid, but you give up the biggest piece was Sexton, and he didn't even play for you last season, and you were still really, really good. Agbaji didn't play for you either last year. You just drafted him. So now they got rid of those two guys who weren't even a big part of their success last season, and Lauri Markkanen, who did play a solid role, but they're replacing him with Donovan Mitchell. And now you can roll out a starting lineup of Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, either Isaac Okoro or Caris LeVert, however you want to go there. Then you've got Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. That's one of the best starting fives in the league, period. You have 3 all-star caliber players already with Mitchell, Garland, and of course Jared Allen. And then you've got a guy in Mobley who I think could be an all-star as soon as this upcoming year. So you have 4 guys that I'm confident will be an all-star at some point in the next couple seasons. That's insane for a super young team still. Mitchell's under team control as well. It's not like he's, coming into Cleveland and it's like, oh, if he hates it in 1 year, he's going to leave you in free agency. He still has, I believe, 3 years left on his deal. I think him and Garland are a great pairing in the backcourt. There have been some people that have expressed concerns about, how are they going to do defensively, but they have Mobley and Jared Allen. I'm really not that concerned. Mobley is super rangy. He can guard outside or inside. They also have, like I mentioned, Okoro, who's a pretty solid defender, so he can step out on the perimeter too if they want to put him in for some more, perimeter defense. Caris LeVert's fine there too. I think that having all those extra guys, it will help them out a lot. They've basically built a better version of what the Jazz have tried to do. They tried to pair Donovan Mitchell with Mike Conley, a pretty solid playmaking point guard, but now Darius Garland is like miles better than Mike Conley was. He's a great playmaker, and he's a far better scorer too, which takes some of that load off of Mitchell. You also have Evan Mobley now, who improves the defense, which was one of the issues that the Jazz had, because Gobert was really just, being the sole defender on that team a lot of times. Now you have Allen and Mobley down low to protect the rim, step out a little bit if they have to. Both can play in space if they need to. You also now have off the bench, you have Kevin Love, who was a guy who was in 6th Man of the Year conversations last year. You've got Jetty Osman. You have names that I'm now blanking on. Dean Wade is there, Lamar Stevens, Ricky Rubio when he comes back. I already mentioned Okoro and LeVert. You've got guys off the bench too. You have a really solid team here in Cleveland. I think that this team will be a top 5 seed. I was already kind of in the middle on the Cavaliers. I felt like they could be a play-in type team, maybe like a 7, 8, 9, or 10 seed. The addition of Mitchell now, alongside the jump I am expecting from Evan Mobley. Like I said, I am a huge fan of Mobley. I think that Mobley is in position, especially now that he has a guy like Mitchell to, further allow him to play his game more. He doesn't have to, expand past what he has to do. It allows him to be more comfortable in his role. He has another option that takes some pressure off. I think that Mobley's a guy that could quickly become an all-star, an all-defensive guy. They've got 4 all-star caliber players, once Mobley makes that jump on their roster, that are all locked up long-term. The Cavaliers have done an incredible job of rebuilding in the absence of LeBron James after he left. The only teams that I'm confident are better than this team are the Sixers, the Bucks, and the Boston Celtics, plus the Brooklyn Nets, assuming everything gets figured out there. I think those are still probably my top 4 teams. Then you have like the Miami Heat, but I think the Cavs are right there in that conversation. And, some of those other teams, they've got injury concerns. Will Joel Embiid sit out some games? Ben Simmons is coming back from a full year off, and Kyrie and KD. So I wouldn't be surprised if this Cavs team sneaks into the top 2, top 3, top 4 in seeding in the Eastern Conference. I wouldn't be surprised at all. And so they've now made a move that solidifies themselves, not just right now as a team that's up and coming. And I think if these young guys take leaps, they could become a contender as soon as like next season. Maybe not this year, it still might be a year away, but then again, they were really good when fully healthy. The only reason they were really in the play-in last year, or, they ended up not making the playoffs, is because of the injuries to guys like Jared Allen. If they're all able to stay fully healthy, I think this Cavs team will absolutely make the playoffs, and they could even make conversations for pushing to like the second or maybe even conference finals if everything goes their way, if the young guys take leaps and things work cohesively. They might make another move or two. I wouldn't be surprised if they do, but right now, as is built, this Cavs team is going to be one of the most fun teams in the league to watch. I think this was a home run for the Cavaliers. I love this pickup. I've been saying for a while that a team like the Cavaliers, they right now are young and they're, not rebuilding, but they're still kind of growing their identity. But adding a young star like Donovan Mitchell, it doesn't compromise your timeline now. It's not like they sold out all their picks to be mediocre. Mitchell's gonna, he can still get better. He's still young. You have Garland who's gonna get better, Mobley, Allen, Okoro. This team is really, really good. I'm super excited for Cavs fans. I'm sure Cavs fans are stoked. I can't wait to see what they do this upcoming season. They're going to be one of my most anticipated teams to watch. I can't wait to see what they do. Young, upcoming. They are a team that could easily win a championship, in my opinion, within the next 5 seasons with this young core that they've built. It's going to be really fun in Cleveland. I know, like I said, some people have concerns. I just think this team's going to be electric. I think it's going to be incredible to watch. So shout out to Colby Altman, the Cavaliers GM, for doing a great job of building up this roster and restoring them to being a really good team. Just a few years after LeBron left. LeBron didn't leave that long ago. It was like 3 years ago at this point, and they've already built themselves up to be one of the best teams in the East and in position to start competing for championships pretty soon. So shout out to the Cavaliers management. Let me know what you think about this trade. Who won, who lost? What would you grade it for each side? Are you as high on the Cavs as I am? Do you think the Jazz did a good job like I do? Do you think that they sold the bag? Should they have gotten someone else? Better trade offers? Let me know all that in the comment section below. I'm super excited about this trade, and I really want to hear what y'all have to say. But that's all I have to say for right now. Leave a like and subscribe if you did enjoy. I appreciate y'all watching, and I'll see y'all later. Real one, say it back.